Hey, good morning, Country Club. It is Billy. I'm out on the golf course this morning. I want to give you an update of what's going on. We have finished the majority of our projects and still doing some tune-ups, I guess you could say, here and there. But this is what is happening around here. A couple explanations for some questions that I've received. Check it out. So as promised, all of the bunker sand has been compacted. We took hand tampers and compacted the faces, and then we took the plate compactors and ran them in the bottoms to compact that sand as good as we can smoosh it down in there. And then you can still see some of the white lines on the bunker faces where we installed subsurface drip irrigation. So we put it under the grass because we need a nice slow precipitation rate, as opposed to if we were to run a sprinkler on that or a hose or something like that. It's too vertical, and the water typically hits the top and then runs right back down into the bunker. So it wasn't an issue during construction and growing because there's water flying everywhere. But we have learned that on a few bunker faces like this, the soil conditions that those things are made out of just didn't really want to hold any water, and we were continually struggling. So this summer, not on all of them, but on the ones where we were struggling with this past year, we put in all of these drip lines, and that's what all those white lines are. We're just putting in a little bit of extra sand on those trench lines to allow that grass to have a nice surface to grow back through, and then they will just disappear. They were essentially almost gone, and then we went back through and resanded them this week, so that's why they're a little bit more predominant. But subsurface drip irrigation, there's an emitter, a 1 gallon an hour emitter every foot on that zone, and that thing runs 2 or 3 times a day. And that's the beauty part about it, is that I can run it during the day and you guys never know, and the bunker faces never dry out. All right, here's 4 green, and on the back of 4 green, on this ridge line here, you can see we've got some thin turf. You can see there where we've done a lot of plugging on it already. So this is the result of how young our greens are. Yeah, they're a year old, but they still are pretty juvenile. So what happened was, these areas weren't an issue until after we aerified the greens in August. And then these little suckers reared their ugly head. So I got one here, there's a spot on 7, and there's a little bit on 15, and we're suffering on some thin spots on a few other greens, and we'll go talk about that too. But here, specifically this ridge, I did some soil testing, and we have got an exorbitant amount of nematodes. Now, what the heck's a nematode? A nematode is a microscopic roundworm, so think of like an earthworm, but it feeds on the root system of the grass. And it was the culmination of the heat stress, the aerification stress, this little ridge stress, this ridge, when we dry out a little bit, this is one of the things that dry out quicker. So we ran into a situation right through here where the culmination of all those stresses is kind of did this little ridge in. So we're on the road to recovery. There's a lot of little grass in there. We just got to keep plugging, keep growing it back out, and create an environment for this grass to thrive a little bit more. But it has been oppressively hot. We're approaching 70 plus inches. We're right at 70 inches for the year, and it has just been amazingly hot and amazingly wet. And I'm not saying this area didn't get a little bit of disease pressure also, but we've taken care of that. So little spot here on 4, and let's go over to 6, and we're going to talk about stresses and the culmination factor. All right, 6 green. When we're talking turfgrass stress, it's easy to point at a spot like this and say that probably dried out and declined because it's a ridge. And remember, I said majority of these problems didn't show up until we aerified, and we aerified this, and it's a big hump and it's rounded, so when water hits it, it tends to roll off before it goes down. And so this got a little dry during the aerification that week, and so we are in the process of recovering it. But the stress back there that I'm going to go show you, it's the cumulative effect of everything. The massive amount of shade that it's getting right now from this tree, the heat stress, the little bit of nematodes that are in the soil that we're dealing with. And nematodes are everywhere. Every soil that you see is going to have nematodes. But it's the total cumulative effect of all those individual stresses that tends to lead to turf decline. Like you can see here, it's starting to get a little thin back here because we're not getting sun until way up there. And I'm going to put a picture in here real quick to show you. I have an app on my phone that will show you exactly what time the sun will get over top of that tree and start shining in the back of the screen. Check this out. So yeah, this is a really cool feature behind this green to have this giant tree, but it also causes a lot of problems because when you're talking about how much sun a particular plant gets, it's about light intensity as well as light duration. So what are we doing to combat this? Well, you see these white lines that we have over here? We're essentially not going to use this part of the green while we're still struggling with the heat, the humidity, and all of the other extra stresses that this is having because of the lack of sun. Sun is what drives energy production. Sun is what gives us the durability. And with all of the other little teeny tiny problems that are constantly plaguing this grass, I don't want to stress this grass out any more than we have to. So we're gonna keep a red pin on 6 for a while, and we're gonna keep the pin over here, try and keep traffic and stress and everything else off of the back of this green so that we can eliminate as much stress back here as possible and let that grass breathe a little bit. So we will cut the green for right here. Every day we'll cut it to right here, and every third day we'll cut over there, just to allow that leaf to lengthen just a little bit, try and capture a little bit more sun on those off days, produce a little bit more energy, gives us a little bit more durability. But that big old tree, it's cool, but it's also a pain in the neck. And look here, a golfer, this is my guess what happened. A golfer was back here on the tee, hit his tee shot, and we had just got done spraying all of the pine straw beds with Roundup in preparation for the annual pine straw install. So I'm guessing hit his ball, went over there and peed in them bushes, then came over here, had the Roundup on his shoe, walked up to the green. There's a few footprints up on the green, but it'll grow out of it. You can see that there's some green in there. It's coming back. But it's just one of those kinds of things. I've seen this a few places where the guys have sprayed and then, you know, guys have walked up out of the woods up onto the grass. Like on number 18, there's a footprints that lead up on top of the back of a bunker hill, so that almost like they tried to get as much height as they could so they could see down the fairway. So there's more of those drip lines, subsurface drip lines, 7 fairway bunkers. And this one here has got it, but you can see the grass has almost grown up through it. It's almost gone. So we just gotta let that grass grow a little bit. We have put 0 fertilizer on the paspalum since we closed in June. And we have, since we closed, almost 70 inches of rain. So I was gonna fertilize this week, but I didn't want to put that $25,000 worth of fertilizer out and then have a potential storm this weekend come in and dump another 5 or 6 inches of rain and wash all that fertilizer down the drain. So we're still holding back a little bit on the paspalum in anticipation of a few more summer events so that we make sure that fertilizer does what it's supposed to do. But you can see here on 7 green as well, you see where all that, you see where all the sunlight is? It used to be shade like this all the way across, because I just came in and I limbed up all these trees to open up this little space so that the sun can get to this little spot. Again, these areas were tested and just absolutely loaded with nematodes. So between the shade stress, the summer heat, humidity stress, and everything else, this little pocket right here took it on the chin. But you can see my guys came in and did a whole lot of plugging on these areas. And so you say to yourself, well, what are we gonna do to get all the greens ready? So we've raised the height of cut, we've increased our fertility, we've established a pretty heavy-duty regimented nematode control program on the greens. We've increased fertility, and once that weather breaks and we can kind of get rid of this oppressive heat and humidity, we should be able to grow some roots. And if we can grow good roots, then the tops will take care of themselves. But 7, this little section of 7 right here has got a little bit of stress going on too. Okay, this is 8 green. And on 8, we have a little bit of stress back here along the back perimeter. And so again, you can see I put the white dots in because we're gonna stay off of that piece back there. But I also came in and I limbed all of these trees way up so that we can get as much sun as possible. There used to be a big tree right here. We cut that down and that took care of a lot of shade issues. But I want to show you again the sun's path to show you that it's all about capturing as much sun as you can and trying to eliminate as many stresses as you can. All right, check this out. Okay, so you can see that blue line, that winter solstice line, it goes right through here. And then we open this up a little bit, try and catch as much late afternoon sun as we possibly can. And then one of the issues that we have back here, Drew did a great job designing the screen, but this little spot back here doesn't allow for much activity from my machines to come here and get off the green and turn around and go back. So between shade issues, and I guarantee you there's nematode issues there, and stress issues from mechanical damage coming back and forth, the roller wearing on it, as well as the curvature here, it's a lot. So we're reducing the mechanical damage by pushing the mow line back that way a little bit. It's just like if you're in a car, when you go around a turn, the centripetal force wants to push it to the outside. So when these mowers go through this turn, those cutting units actually dig in a little bit more on that turn. So that's one of the reasons why you'll hear me say we go out and circle cut fairways and circle cut tees, because we're purposefully wanting that mower unit to push down and chew into that grass. That's not necessarily the case on the greens. We want to eliminate as much stress up here as possible, because these things take the most abuse. So just another small little section here in A where we're doing everything we can to try and eliminate as many of the small stresses as possible, so that cumulatively the grass has a good enough environment to be able to sustain whatever it is that we throw at it through the season. This is 10 green and actually looks pretty good. So we knew that 10, 11, and 12 had issues last year. So we started out in early summer to really remediate the nematode problem on these things, and then we opened up a lot of these trees in here, like that one, so we get sun through it, and it's really worked out. So we do the same thing to this green that we do all the other greens, but by eliminating the stress of the shade, as well as managing our nematode populations on these 3 greens particularly, we were able to really increase the turf health and density on this green. Still has a little bit of thin spots, and that's primarily due to the grass exhausting itself on a daily basis trying to cool itself. So because this grass is so immature still, it is producing a lot of energy, but it's also expending a lot of that energy just in an effort to try and acquire as much water as it can out of the soil, and then transpire that water up through the leaves in an effort to cool itself. If it is really hot and miserable out for you on the golf course, the grass itself is hot and miserable. So we're coming into a good growing season where we can really start developing some root structure. Once that weather breaks a little bit, we should really start dropping some roots. So roots are naturally doing this all the time. So in the spring, the roots lengthen because it's really great growing weather. It's not exceptionally hot out. They have lots of food. We're pumping them full of fertilizer, and life is good. So all that extra energy that it produces, it stores in the root system. And in March, we were cutting cups out here, and the roots were hanging out the bottom of the cup cutter. Then as summer comes along, and it's starting to get hotter, and it's starting to get hotter, and it's starting to get hotter, and right now our root system is about like that. I had our consulting agronomist come out yesterday, and it was me and Mr. Turk and Mr. Ernest and Nate, the golf pro. We're riding around and probing greens and taking samples and looking at roots, and it was amazing to see that they're only that deep. But again, that's not unusual because of how miserable it has been to be out here. Yesterday we were riding around watering greens in the afternoon and whatnot, and just drenching with sweat just breathing out here. So you can see that it's 4 o'clock. I just got in my truck on the go home, and it is 98 degrees out in full sun. So imagine what it is inside the turf canopy and that sweltering heat, and what the humidity is like right there at ground level. All right, I'm out on 16 green, and I just checked with the weather station online, and it said Naples is 90 degrees, but we shoot the thermal, it's 101 in the turf canopy, and we have a pretty nice little breeze blowing here, so that's helping cool things off. But full sun, 104 right there, and the breeze is blowing. So you can imagine what it gets when that flag just stands still for hours on end, and the humidity and the heat and everything that piles up in that turf canopy, and that just induces even more stress. So this grass is trying to be as robust as it can possibly be, and all of the energy that it's producing is going into just straight survival mode, because this is a warm season grass, not a hot season grass. Nothing likes the miserable days of summer. So if it stinks for you, it stinks for the grass. So once we can get a break in that weather, we should really turn the corner and start developing a good, healthy root system. And then so summer, fall, winter, colder weather, less sunlight, colder temperatures in the soil means less photosynthesis, less biophysiological activity in the plant. It's going to slow its metabolic processes down due simply because of the heat, and therefore, or not the heat, because of the cold. But the plant still needs to survive, so it's going to start consuming all of those extra carbohydrate reserves that it stores in the root system, which is going to make the root system shrink. So everything we did on 10 over the summer, it's worked out really well. So as we hopefully come to a conclusion here with the dog days of summer, we have got good plans in place to help get the grass on the putting surfaces where it's kind of struggling a little bit back to what we would consider acceptable conditions. This weekend we are we're forecasted to get another massive amount of rain. There's a little tropical something or another kind of down by the Mexican Cancun area, and it's supposed to blow up through the Gulf and into our weather system here in Florida Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So we're anticipating another 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, and we'll just deal with it after it gets done. But hopefully soon we're going to catch a break in the weather, and we will be able to get the greens to dry down a little bit, which should help us in an overall sense, and then we can really start developing roots. Our goal right now is just to grow roots. So we're gonna sacrifice playability a little bit. We're gonna sacrifice some pin positions a little bit, because our goal right now is to have really great greens by Thanksgiving, and not necessarily worry about rolling 10 or 11 right now. If we were to overdo it on the greens in the sake of playability, we could really have some detrimental effects on the putting surfaces themselves. With the grass struggling to just live its normal life without that big emphasis on playability, if we were to turn the corner and really push the throttles forward, we could have some serious side effects. So we're playing it cautiously on the safe side. That's really the recommendation from there's one of my guys, right, he's getting ready to rake the bunker here on 8. So we're playing it cautiously. That was a game plan all along. That was reaffirmed by our consultant that came in, and sacrifice a little bit now so that we have a better playability and stuff through the heavy golfing season. So I hope that helps everybody understand what's going on around the golf course. Leave me a comment if you guys want to know what else is going on. I can give you some better explanation. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.